PERONO.
I am Helen BARSUBIA.
Hi, I'm Yvonn Jay GULENG.
I am Michael John Deramas IBLOGUEN.
Hi, I'm Alanna, and this is Script Omasum. Watch us as we present an informative video about housing and equipment for ruminants production.
Ruminants are an important and integral component of animal production across Asia. Animals such as goat, sheep, or cattle are widespread, and a characteristic feature about their production is that they are essentially reared on production systems on animal farms. This includes not only their food or their health management, but also their housing and equipment. It is a big business to deal with, but ruminant production is surely worth the venture. Coming up next is Alanna to present.
Housing requirement for cattle production. Housing is an essential for maintaining the health, comfort, and protection of our cattle in order to get the maximum production. Most farm animals need some kind of shelter to escape the elements, and that would enable the animals to utilize their genetic ability and feed optimal production. To begin a cattle production endeavor, adequate consideration and proper care must be made to know how to keep these animals for a better management in a healthier environment and to prevent theft. Throughout the video, we will discuss 5 main points that must be taken into account. First, the building must have a suitable and enough ventilation and lighting. Animal shelters should be open, providing natural ventilation, or enclosed using fans and proper air inlets around the ceiling perimeter to provide a good air circulation. Ensure the entrance of sufficient air and light inside the house because sunlight helps to dry the house and helps to prevent germs and viruses. Inadequate lighting so that the animals can be thoroughly inspected as required. Desirable ventilation properties include the ability for the building to remove excess heat, water vapor, dust, microorganisms, as well as being able to provide a uniform distribution of air. To have an idea and to have a reference of what is a good ventilation and good lighting, take a look at these pictures. Second one, the building must include strategically placed feeders and drinkers. Feeding and drinking equipment should conform with the standards or requirements and conspicuously placed such that animals are allowed to eat and drink freely and allowing them to behave normally, as well as contamination with animal feces and urine is prevented. A guaranteed supply of good quality water is important to provide cattle with their daily water requirements and for cleaning. Water storage tanks with sufficient storage capacity needs to be present in the event that the water supply gets temporarily disrupted. To have an idea or reference, take a look at these pictures. Third, the building must be built on a level, well-drained surface that does not undulate. Floors and pathways used by animals should be made from non-slippery materials, safe, stable, and well-lighted to prevent injury and abnormal gaits to the animals. Animals should be provided with sufficient floor space or size suitable for their age, body, weight, and size to allow animals to feed and drink comfortably. The lying surface of a housing system can influence odor health. Therefore, the floor surface must also be easy to keep clean, whichever cleaning system you use. Take a look at this picture. Fourth, the building must be easily accessible and the surrounding must not be bushy to prevent predators and disease vectors. There should be an effective drainage system in place at the building. The premises should be kept clean at all times to prevent disease occurrence, establishment of breeding ground for pests, and avoid environmental degradation. The farm should be away from the city, but at the same time it should be near to the city. Thereby, the products produced from the farm could be marketed easily. Fifth, the building must have a shade and there must be no drought or condensation in the building. These animals prefer shade that provides at least 50% blockage of solar radiation. Provision of shade on our clear plastic roof will reduce the solar radiation, but care needs to be taken. You must provide enough shade to cover the entire lying area to ensure that all cows can lie under shade. Condensation. It forms when warm, moist air rises and has no way of escaping. It collects under the cooler roof surface and forms droplets that fall down into the beddings. If droplets fall on lying areas, it can increase the risk of pathogen growth and make some areas less appealing for animals to lie in. Good ventilation reduces the risk of condensation. Stay tuned for more.
Thank you, Alanna, for your presentation. Now let's proceed to the two systems of cattle housing production, the intensive system and the extensive system. So first, let's discuss intensive system. So what do we mean by intensive? In physics, it means denoting a property which is measured in terms of intensity rather than extent. In livestock production, the intensive system refers to management practice where animals are confined within a building with limited access to grazing. In this system, implications are not allowed to forage or fend for themselves under similar practice. A fenced land area may be designated as grazing area or paddock. It is usually adjacent to animal pens. Cattle are housed in a well-shaded open-sided structure called the barns or cattle shed. If we talk about the size of the barn, this actually depends on the number of cattle expected to be housed. There is also an average of 2 to 3 meters squared that is allowed for adult cattle. In intensive system, the house must be well equipped with feeders and water traps with adequate space for farm operations to take place. The floor of the barn is always concrete with a rough surface to prevent skidding or falling of cattle. The construction of the house is such that it has feeding passage with well-fitted managers around the standing area. Drains must be constructed for easy washing, cleaning, and evacuation of dung and other waste materials. Individual pens are also used in the system of production, especially for calves, breeding bulls, and nursing cows. Also, housing facilities managed under hygienic conditions are provided for the stock, and appropriate medications and health management are offered. Now we are done with the intensive system. So let's discuss extensive system. Extensive means obtaining a relatively small crop from a large area with a minimum of attention and expense. In livestock production, specifically in cattle, extensive system is a system where cattle have the freedom to roam outdoors, where the cattle have some autonomy over diet selection, water consumption, and access to shelter. Cattle kraal is an enclosure in an open field or land where the animals are tethered. The walls of the kraal could be made of planks or wood, bamboo, mud blocks, or stones. The cattle fend for themselves and graze on a wide range of pastures. It is possible that it complements its diet with other foods, but mainly it is based on the local herbs that it obtains through grazing. One of the main emphases of extensive livestock is to use the natural resources of the space in an efficient way. Also, cattle have characteristics that allow them to adapt perfectly to the climatic and soil condition of the space used. Again, there are two systems for cattle housing production, the intensive and extensive system. This is the end of my video. Thank you for watching.
Earlier, our two presenters discussed the three main points of our topic. Now that we have an insight about the housing for cattle production, we must remember that providing them proper housing is instrumental to their health, comfort, and protection from adverse climatic conditions, which will in turn help them improve their performance in farms. The end. This is not it. I'll now give the floor and this pen to Koleen to further discuss more about our topic.
Well, thank you for this pen, Ella. This will come in handy. Hi there, everyone. Now that we're done with the housing for cattle production, let's proceed to the housing for sheep and goat production. Sheep and goats are important sources of milk and meat. Both readily adapt to a wide range of climates and available feed supplies. They also have similar housing requirements and will therefore be discussed together in this topic. Let's start with the general considerations.
First off, the basic requirement of good animal housing is that it should alter and modify the environment for the benefit of the animals, and also protect them from predation and theft. The things that should generally be considered in building a sheep and goat shed are the location, orientation, and ventilation. Let me show you some pictures of well-built but simple sheep and goat sheds. This picture shows an example of low-cost shed. And this one is an elevated floor shed. Lastly, this picture is an example of deep litter shed.
It is also known that in the arid tropics, no protection other than natural shade is required. In humid climates, a simple thatched shelter will provide shade and protection from excessive rain. Sheep and goats do not tolerate mud well. Therefore, yards and shelters should be built only on well-drained ground. Here are some examples.
The common requirements of a sheep and goat housing in the Philippines are the following. Sheep and goats should be confined inside a 360 square meter pen. This is the ideal size of an animal shelter. The pen should also have a shed to protect the sheep and goat from extreme heat or cold. The roof is made of plastic galvanized sheets for proper ventilation. Its flooring is made from concrete. The entirety of the housing is divided into two parts. Pen for the milking breeds and pen for the meat breeds. These are also divided into subsections. The subsections are nursing pens, breeding pens, fattening pens, 1-month-old, 2-month-old, and 3-month-old pens, or the growing pens, and weaning pens. Sections are separated by gates or fences made by metal for the animals to be safer. For the size of our nursing pens, it should be 3 square meters per head. Grower pens should be at least 1 square meter per head. Breeding pens is 5 square meters per head, and fattening pens should be 1.8 square meters per head. In the aisles of each pen lie concrete feeders bank wherein the animals eat. On the outside are water banks for drinking. Note that this picture shows sheds constructed in an elevated area to prevent water stagnation. Sheds should also be constructed with proper ventilation. Types of sheds depend on the system of rearing. Depending primarily on the availability and use of land, 3 common practices of production are commonly used, namely subsistence, intensive, and extensive system.
The first one is called subsistence. This is where a few animals are tethered during the day and put into a protective shelter at night.
The semi-intensive system has the advantage of meeting the nutrient requirement both from grazing and stall feeding, managing medium to large flock of 50 to 350 heads and above, utilizing cultivated forage during lean periods, harvesting a good crop of kids both for meat and milk, and making a profitable gain due to less labor input.
The second one is extensive. Take it away, Eric.
The extensive is known as when a flock or herd grazes over the large areas of marginal land unsuited to agriculture. The flock is usually shut into a yard at night. Both systems are practiced extensively in East Africa.
The extensive system have what we call the rotational grazing method. The rotational grazing method should be practiced under which the pasture land should be divided by temporary fences into several sections. The animals are then moved from one section to another section. By the time the entire pasture is grazed, the first section will have sufficient grass cover to provide second grazing. Parasitic infestations can be controlled to a great extent. Further, it helps to provide quality fodder for most part of the year. Under this system, it is advisable to graze the lambs first on a section and then bring in ewes to finish the feed left by the lambs.
The third system will be explained by Koleen. Here you go, Coles.
Thanks, Eric. The third system is termed as intensive, meaning the animals are confined into yards and shelters and feed is brought to the flock. This system offers the greatest protection from predators and parasites. Although it may make use of the limited land resources, it also increases labor and the capital investment required for facilities. Lastly, we should always remember that when housing facilities are provided, it will be necessary to have in addition the water, feed troughs, and permanent partitions to help divide and handle the flock when necessary to carry on such operations as disease treatment, docking, shearing, milking, and lambing. And that concludes our topic on sheep and goat housing. I'll now be giving the floor and this pen to Yvonn so he can discuss further about our topic. Take it away, Yvonn!
Thank you, Koleen. Now let's begin to discuss the equipment and management practices of ruminant production. For easy production of ruminant or any farm animals, certain equipment have been designed and used to facilitate management operation. In ruminant animals, this equipment appear to be common and work with the same principle. In this topic, I will discuss the equipment used in ruminant animal production. These tools are categorized into first, castration, tail docking and dehorning tools, animal identification tools, grooming and foot care tools, breeding, reproduction and birthing tools, medication and preventive healthcare tools, and animal restraint tools. The first category is the castration, tail locking, and dehorning tools. One of its examples is the Burdizo castrator. This is used to castrate unwanted males on the farm, typically used on cattle and sheep but also used by some goat producers. It has also been used in tail locking of lambs. It works by crushing and cutting the tissue and blood vessels along the area. Illustrator and illustrator bands. It is being used to dock and castrate animals, especially cattle, sheep, and goats. May also be used to band tails on lambs. It is used for placing some sort of band over the tail or scrotum, and it works by stopping the blood flow to the tissue, causing it to die and fall off. Next is the dehorner. It is used to remove horns, and it has two types, the electric dehorner and the scoop or Barnes dehorner, and it is manually used, typically used on cattle but can be used in other animals like sheep and goats. Next is the emasculator, used to crush the spermatic cord, which crushes the blood vessels, thus depriving the testicles of blood supply. The next category is the animal identification tools. One of its examples is the ear puncher. It's used for fixing ear tag to the ear of the animal for identification and can be used in any animal species. It inserts identification or medication tag into the animal's ear. Next is the tattooing machine. Tattooing is making durable marks, design, or patterns on the skin of an animal by pricking the skin or rubbing dyes or stains. Tattooing machine is an equipment similar to pliers with set of letters arranged and well fitted to the tongue of the pliers. It then rubbed with an indelible ink to give a permanent marking. Next is the branding irons, used for identification, and it has three types: the freeze branding, paint, and hot branding. The paint has typically shorter handle and may be wooden, while the hot branding numbers are narrower and promotes faster heat transfer. The freeze branding, on the other hand, numbers are metal that quickly transfer cold and thicker than hot irons. The third category is the grooming and foot care tools. One of its examples is the hoof trimmer. Hoof trimmer are used to cut off the edges of overgrown hoofs on sheep and goats. They work like any other scissor-type instrument and used to remove damaged or infected hoof material. Hoof knife is used to remove damaged or infected hoof material and also used to remove stones and other items that stuck in the hoof. Wool card, a very common tool used when grooming the sheep. It is used to comb and shape the wool of the sheep. It is used when picking and rolling motion. This is for the clippers to get all the wool and make an even cut. Lastly, the sheep shears. Shearing accounts for health and hygiene of sheep. Excess wool impedes ability for sheep to regulate body temperatures. Shear comes with two types, the manual shears and the electric shears.
This clip is an example of an expert shearer. Electric shears have three basic parts: the handpiece, the comb, and the cutters. Commercial sheep shears have a powerful electric motor attached to the ceiling. Portable electric shears have the motor inside the handle of the handpiece. There are 5 basic steps to remember when using an electric shear. First, electric shearers usually start shearing from the brisket, move towards the left shoulder region, and as the sheep is still on its left side, they trim its head, then move to the neck region. Second, shearers set the sheep on its rump and shear the shoulders and the entire left side. After that, they move to the belly region and around its legs. Third, the sheep is rotated slightly to gain access to the right side so that they can reach the backbone and get the left side of the crutch. Fourth, the sheep is turned entirely on the right side, then they start with the neck moving down, then rotate it slowly back to the left side. Finally, after it is back to its left side, the shaving process is completed by shearing its rump and then the right side of its crutch. But remember, anyone can attempt to shear a sheep, but not everyone will do a good job. Shearing is a specialized skill. It requires skill so that the sheep are shorn efficiently without cuts or injuries to the sheep and shearer. If shearing is not carried out skillfully, it is stressful to the sheep. Sheep also be penned before shearing. They should be sorted into the following groups: lambs, yearlings, rams, and ewes by breed and or grade. Sheep should be fasted before shearing. This will result in a much cleaner shearing floor. A full stomach also contributes to animal discomfort during shearing. Wet sheep should not be shorn. Sheep should be sheared on a clean, dry surface. The shearing area should be swept after each sheep to provide a clean surface for the next.
The next category is the breeding, reproduction, and birthing tools. One of its examples is the nipple feeders. It is used for feeding young cattle with milk replacers. Artificial nipples are designed to help nurse orphan lambs or kids. Next is the OB or obstetrics. OB deals with pregnancy and birthing. It has two types, the OB chain and the OB puller. Both OB types used to wrap around the leg or some other part of the unborn animal and then work with the mother to pull the baby out. The fifth category is the medication and preventive healthcare tools. One of its examples is the drenchers. There are two types of drenchers, the drenching syringe and the drenching gun. It is used for oral administration of liquid drug, especially during deworming exercise to keep livestock in condition. The next is the syringe. It is used for giving injection. Example is the pistol grip syringe. It is used for giving multiple injection without having to reload. Next is the bowling gun, used for oral administration of capsules and boluses. In using this tool, first insert the pill into the end of the tube, then pull the plunger. This will deposit the pill into the throat of the animal. The last category is the animal restraint tools. One of the examples is the nose lead. It is used for leading unruly cattle, typically used with bulls. It inserts into each nostril, and lead rope is attached to the chain and gives pressure.
Now that we have learned about the various equipments used in ruminant production, I will discuss to you the management practices essential in ensuring the quality of the herd or the individual itself. Hi guys! Welcome to another vlog. So, nandito tayo ngayon sa 100 acres na backyard farm namin. Kasi today yung management day ng ating mga ruminants. So, tara! Tingnan natin kung paano yung process. So, first natin na management practice kayong debudding. Mga 3 to 4 weeks pa lang yung animals namin, dinidebud na namin. Para syempre paglaki nila, hindi na sila maka-injure ng ibang animals sa flock or sa herd natin. Ayun si Kuya, nagka-debud na siya. Tingnan natin kung paano niya gawin. Okay, next naman natin ay ang castration. Pagka-castrate namin yung mga hindi namin gagamitin na male animal sa breeding, kinakastrate namin para ma-improve yung quality or yung carcass quality ng animal. So, ayun si Kuya, nag-castrate siya ngayon. So, tingnan natin kung paano siya nag-castrate.
ठीक है, जरा बताइए. ठीक है, नस को प्रेस करना होता है.
Okay guys, so identification na tayo, no? Sa identification, meron tayong ear tagging, ear tattooing, ear notching, tsaka yung skin and horn branding na tinatawag. So, lakad muna tayo, punta tayo Texas. Dun sa Texas na part ng aming farm, kasi dun yung ginagawa yung identification namin. Uy, kuya, wait. Sige, i-film ko kayo na nag-identification na kayo para makita ng viewers ko.
After marking, the vegetable ink is smeared over it. The ear tagging should not be pierced near or on the blood vessels.
Ginagawa ang identification practices para maka-keep track tayo ng records ng animals for ownership verification, katulad ng farm namin kahit maliit lang siya. Then, para sa biosecurity control natin dito sa farm at sa tracking na rin ng ating animals. Ngayon naman, mag-deworm tayo kasi every 2 months namin din-deworm yung mga animals dito. Gamit yung drenching can namin. So, iti-drench natin sila para less yung production na cost natin. Tsaka yung medicine na ipapainom hindi sayang. Tsaka tama yung dosage. So next naman na ipapakita ko is yung hoof trimming at tsaka yung tail docking. Yung hoof trimming nandun si Doc Mark kasi papakita niya sa atin paano mag-trim ng hoof ng goat para makalakad ng maayos yung animal. At the same time, iwasan natin yung mga diseases caused by germs kasi madumi yung excess na parang balatgod sa hoof nila. Sa tail docking naman, usually mga 1 week old yung sheep namin kapag tinitail dock namin para less yung pain, tsaka ready na sila pag malaki na.
When it's an adult sheep. So just measure that as you do it. It's normally where the skin ends.
So that ends our vlog for today. I hope marami kang natutunan. This is your girl Helen.
That ends our talk about the equipment and management practices of ruminant production. Thank you for watching.